Welcome to Life Extension Live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Myself, Dr. Mike, and my co-host, Dr. Crystal. We come live. Yay!
Yay!
Great to see everyone. So today, discovering the benefits of spicy food, because tomorrow is National Hot and Spicy Food Day.
Yes. Dr. Mike, do you like spicy food?
I do.
Right.
I enjoy the spice. No, I'm not crazy with it, right?
Okay.
I like spice, but I like it to make sense and taste good. Like I don't want to just like blow out my palate just because I can say I ate something hot, right? Does that make sense?
Well, I like spicy foods just because it helps me burn fat.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. We got some research that actually points to
Yes.
that a little bit. So stick around. We got some good research looking at the health benefits of eating spicy foods, basically focusing on the hot peppers. So the main substance in hot peppers are capsaicin, that compound, and we're going to talk about its heart health abilities, fat burning. You can see the slide there, pain management, even psoriasis. Yeah, pretty interesting studies there. And then we'll talk a little bit about why certain people should limit spicy foods. And then if you go overboard, right, ways to neutralize that. So let's get right into this, Dr. Crystal. Tell us about this capsaicin. I think most people have heard this by now, right? But
Maybe so.
what exactly is it, and why do we sense it as heat in our mouth?
Yes. Well, it's the pungent chemical that is found in hot pepper. So not black pepper. Black pepper has, it's piperine, which is responsible for its heat. But like the red chilies, the habaneros, the jalapeno peppers, and it's responsible for their spiciness, and the different peppers have different levels of spicy. I know we were talking about the what's the name of the scale, Dr. Mike?
The Scoville scale, right?
Yes, the Scoville scale, and some of them are very low on that scale, which is basically rating their spiciness and
well, is that
they contain.
Yeah, so so it is related to the amount of capsaicin at the end of the day, right? So okay, we were talking about the jalapeno, right?
Yes.
I've eaten a lot of jalapenos, pickled, fresh. It has a nice spice. There you go. That, just to put it into context for people, right? That has a Scoville ranking of what did we find? 2,500?
Yep, about 2,500 to up to about 4,000.
Okay, so it has a decent bite to it, right? Your eyes might water a little bit when you eat a whole fresh jalapeno, but compare that to the world's hottest, which is the Carolina Reaper, right? Yes. Tell the audience how many Scoville units that has.
Oh, you're in the millions.
Yeah.
Gosh. Up to 2 million when you look at the Scoville scale. And, people actually seek out the Carolina Reaper. I mean,
I think, when I think we have a picture of somebody that's going to come up that there it is. This is from a San Diego newspaper. This guy here, I don't even understand how it's possible.
Yeah.
Right. 44 Carolina Reapers. And so obviously he's a professional. I mean, I would, don't do that, please.
Yeah, he looks pretty rough on the.
But he looks pretty rough there towards the end.
Well, he didn't meet the Guinness World record. It's actually 123 chilies. So he came up short, but let me tell you, his effort should be commended.
Wait a second. So the world record is 120?
123.
That's just, yeah. Now we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, maybe we can just mention it now before we jump into the health benefits, because it's not just about eating the hottest pepper in the world and getting in the newspaper, right? I mean, there's true benefit to spicy food, but when you look at all the different ways people can eat spicy foods, some of these contests, we've learned that you can build some tolerance, right, to that capsaicin level over time.
And I imagine that's what they're doing, because the more you eat it, those taste receptors become numb. Now, the numbness is not permanent. So it's actually a myth that people think that you're destroying your taste receptors. That's not the case, but it can numb those taste receptors for up to 24 hours. So I would imagine that if that's how I would prep. You prep
Yeah.
by, for the contest by
eating peppers. Yeah. Yeah,
eating
eat a whole bunch of peppers before you actually sit down to go to do the contest, right? So there you go. That's a tip you will only hear here on Life Extension Live. Show us the jalapeno pepper again, because you cut it open for us.
I did.
So hold it down a little bit. There you go. Where in that picture then are we finding the most capsaicin?
Well, most people think it's the seeds, and I used to. And so when I would cook for this, even, if I wanted a little spice in a chili or something like that, I would just remove those seeds. But it's actually this membrane. Let's see if I can.
The white little membrane that kind of connects the seeds to the pulp, basically. Yeah. There you go.
That's where the spice is located. So if you want to cook with pepper, you want to, decrease the heat, remove all of that membrane from the pepper.
Right.
And
now,
the seeds.
Be careful, Dr. Crystal. I saw that you touched that membrane. So don't touch your eyes. Don't do anything like that, because we'll have to end the live show very quickly.
Well, capsaicin is what's in pepper spray. So I don't want to, have those problems.
So, so let's get back down to the average use of peppers. We definitely, I know me and I know you, Dr. Crystal, we believe in adding a lot of spice to your food, but make it make sense, right? I mean, that's the key thing. And I said this before, I'll say it again, that, for me, I like that spicy kick, but I like to taste it as well. So I don't like too much, and I don't want to go crazy with it. But I do believe there are some well-supported health benefits of capsaicin, right, specifically. So tell us kind of where the main categories of health kind of fall under for capsaicin.
Yes, well, just in general, it supports healthy inflammatory responses in the body. It's an antioxidant, capsaicin, but some of those key health categories: cardiovascular health, pain, neuropathy, specifically diabetic neuropathy, which is a common form of neuropathy, psoriasis, and of course, weight management is the category that, my ears perk up when I start reading that. But I was actually very surprised, Dr. Mike, when we started researching for this. I went to lifeextension.com, and that's kind of where I start first, typed in capsaicin. And I found that it was included in 5 or 6 of our detailed health protocols.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, there's some pretty good research, because to make it in our protocol, it needs to have research supportive data. Yeah. And so those are some of the headline health benefits.
Yeah. When I look at the cardiovascular benefits, for a lot of people, people that need to manage cholesterol, for example, most of the time we spend most of our effort, I should say, right, in trying to get the LDL cholesterol down, right? Which could be very important to you, but just as important is to raise the good stuff, HDL. That kind of counters the bad stuff, right? And pretty sure it turns out capsaicin's been shown in a couple of small studies, at least, to raise HDL, which is really good, because there's not a lot of things that raise HDL, right?
Very true. You took the words out of my mouth. That's that stubborn one where there are very little options to help to get the good cholesterol up. But capsaicin in individuals, and I'll just quote one of the studies I have here up, individuals with low levels of HDL cholesterol, 3 months of 4 milligrams of capsaicin raised their HDL levels, but they also saw in this research a decrease in triglycerides and a decrease in C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation in the body.
Right. So really, when you look at it, in this one study, at least, capsaicin was managing 3 different risk factors for heart disease, right? We don't, at Life Extension, we don't just recognize high LDL. I mean, we look at a lot of different, I think I always forget the number, Dr. Kristen. 19, risk factors for heart disease. It's not just LDL cholesterol. And right here, you have capsaicin, a natural compound raising HDL, bringing down the triglycerides, bringing down inflammation, which is the CRP. So that's really good. And at 4 milligrams. Now, let's put 4 milligrams. I know this was a little later in our list here, but let's talk about it now. Let's put 4 milligrams of capsaicin into context for people. Like how does that compare to, say, eating, the jalapeno, or I think you have in your example, the cayenne pepper, right?
Right. So cayenne pepper contains about 1.32 milligrams per gram of capsaicin. So when you look at that, it's a little under a teaspoon of cayenne pepper will give you, about 1.32 milligrams. And you think about it, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper can season an entire pot of chili.
Right. A lot. Yeah.
A lot.
Sure.
So you would imagine probably about at least 4 teaspoons of cayenne pepper would be equivalent. And that's every day.
Every day. Yeah. That would be the equivalent of the 4 milligrams a day found in that study. And so, you know what? Add some cayenne pepper to your soups and your stews and all that kind of stuff, right? It's great. It's wonderful. But here again, it shows supplementation really is key. You're not really going to be able to get the amount that's really shown in the studies. And that's what's important. Clinically validated dosing. That's really what's key. Is what we do at Life Extension. There was the pain neuropathy one. Now, this is a prescription, but I think it was one containing, 8% capsaicin, and you can rub that on the areas where you have issues, and it works pretty well, right?
Yes, and it's a new prescription. So if you're dealing with neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy, this is something you can ask your doctor for. FDA approved as of July of 2020, and it's called, let's see.
Quintenza?
Quintenza,
yeah.
But yes, it's 8% capsaicin. And so we do know that it helps to desensitize those nerves so that they can no longer transmit pain signals quite as strongly. And, people who have been diabetic for a very long time, or school teachers, surprisingly, who stand, if you've ever worked a job where you've had to stand for a long time, maybe you were not wearing the proper shoes, you can have some neuropathy as well. So, protect your feet, but capsaicin may be helpful, and you can ask your doctor for that.
Yeah, a lot of your surgical nurses, I mean, they'll stand for a whole, like 12 hours sometimes, right? Tell me about the psoriasis. This was interesting to me.
Well, in this, what we're seeing with psoriasis is that it is increasing the dilation of blood vessels in the skin. This is also with a cream and a double-blind study, and a capsaicin cream was applied to only one side of the body of the psoriasis patients. And on the side where they had the cream applied, there was a significant reduction in scaling and redness on that side of application. So we're seeing topical benefits, internal benefits as well, and so capsaicin gets the thumbs up for me.
Yeah, but now we reserve the best for last, right? Tell us about the fat burning component of capsaicin. I mean, that's obviously weight loss is always big in this country, and people are always looking for ways to manage weight. And so maybe capsaicin is something they should add to their everyday diet, right?
Yes, they should. Well, and you've talked about this, Dr. Mike. It activates the fight or flight response, and that's what's going to kind of get your heart racing a little bit. But I guess the end result of that fight or flight response is reduced appetite, increased thermogenesis, fat burning, increased energy expenditure, and
Wow.
increased fat tissue
That's a lot.
breakdown.
That's a lot, right?
Everything that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and this is different from the cardiovascular one where we saw 4 milligrams a day. Wasn't this 2 milligrams a day that
This is
had these benefits?
right. So in my mind, I immediately thought this is doable for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like spicy, and so this is, when you have soup or even some teas, then you add that cayenne pepper into your food.
Yeah.
Maybe you can space it out. Maybe don't put all of
Oh,
the teaspoon of cayenne pepper in one meal. Maybe have a little at breakfast, some at lunch, some
spread it
at
out.
dinner.
Yeah.
You may be
Yeah.
able to get to that 2 milligrams.
Yeah.
Um,
But you do have to remember it does depend on the pepper you're actually using too, right? So we're using cayenne as that standard that gives us the 1 point. So that the teaspoon of cayenne pepper gives us the what is it? The little over 1.3 milligrams
mhm.
of the capsaicin. But the hotter the pepper, right? If you want to
Yes.
move over to the habanero level, maybe I've had habaneros. They're hot, but they're doable for me. That might be a little bit more in a teaspoon, right?
Yes. What? Absolutely.
So the pepper definitely matters there. But getting more pepper into your diet. Look, at the end of the day, heart benefit, pain and nerve benefit, even skin benefit, and just a healthier metabolism and just better body composition overall with something as simple as spicy peppers and getting that right amount of capsaicin. So what about, so a lot of people watching this, hearing this, they might automatically say, well, there's a couple questions for you, Dr. Crystal. Number one, if somebody has a hard time with adding spice to their foods, will they experience issues with taking supplements?
Ooh, that's a great question, Dr. Mike. It depends on the supplement. You can find cayenne supplement preparations on the market, and there are some where uh, they are not spicy somehow, and so you can have some supplement preparations where maybe they just have a special coating around
Yeah,
that capsule.
I think that's the answer, right? I think it's in how
Mhm.
they formulate the supplement. My opinion is you should be, you put the capsaicin in say just a standard capsule. That capsule will get through your stomach. It's not opening up. I mean, don't bite it, but it's not opening up in your mouth. It's going into your stomach, into your small intestine. So you should be okay. At first, you might have some reflux a little bit, if that's your issue with spicy food, but that usually gets a little bit better with continued use for a few days. So I think you're still good to go in a supplement form. Now, here's your next question, Dr. Crystal.
Okay.
Um, Fresh pepper versus the ground pepper you can buy in the bottles.
Well, that is actually that goes back to some of the food principles where you're using fresh herb versus the ground herb. You do find, and I don't have the ratios in front of me, and maybe Brittany or Holly, that's our social team, they're in the chat also answering some of those questions. They may be able to include a conversion table,
Yeah.
but it's not a one-to-one
It's
conversion.
not. It's not one to one. I know in general, believe it or not, it's the ground form in the little bottles you can buy that
Mhm.
can be actually more. Was that the right way of saying it? Can actually have the hotter, the more heat to it. When you're cooking, for instance, if you're using a fresh pepper, you might use the whole pepper in whatever you're making. But if you're going to go to the dry form, it might just be a pinch or two.
Right.
So the
Exactly.
dry form can actually be more concentrated with the capsaicin. And listen, I have some cayenne pepper, dried in a little bottle out there.
Uh-huh.
I've used it before, Dr. Crystal, and it's hot. So that whether it's dried or not, you're getting capsaicin. And as a matter of fact,
Yes.
the dried spice could actually be a little bit more.
Yes, I would have to agree, and probably the ground, because my husband's into the pepper flakes.
Yeah.
And so when you grind it up, you are using more of that pepper in order to kind of fill up the bottle.
So what about people that are watching? Okay, not just the person who maybe is sensitive to the peppers, but what about, other health conditions? Are there certain people who should be careful with spicy food? I don't want to say should avoid. I mean,
Yes.
that's really between you and your doctor and your own body, and yourself. But maybe be cautious. Anybody we should watch when it comes to spicy foods?
Oh, Dr. Mike, you're being so responsible, as we should be. People with asthma tend to be a little more sensitive to capsaicin. The question always comes up with people who have ulcers. If your doctor tells you to stay away from spicy, then that's what you should do. However, there is some research. Well, the majority of the research is pointing that it's kind of a myth that the spicy foods can cause an ulcer or even irritate an ulcer, because the spicy foods have those anti-inflammatory properties that may actually heal the lining of the stomach.
Oh,
It
very
may
interesting.
slow the production of excess acid. And so it's one of those things where, yes, you may be feeling a little bit of the burn, but it's probably working in your favor. The research with ulcers, I mean, it's really high doses, 100 milligrams per kilogram of spice. And obviously,
And that's way high. That's like way up there. Who's doing that anyways, right? Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and this is with great caution that I say that, but we are just presenting the research and what the data shows.
What happens so I'm going to go and, I don't know, I'm actually going to make some gazpacho coming up here. Nice cold soup. I mean, it's only about 1,000 degrees here in South Florida. I think you need something to cool off. I might spice it up a little bit. What if I go a little overboard and I take a bite? Now I'm burned and I can't see. I'm sweating and my tears. What can I do to neutralize that heat?
What I would suggest is a dollop of yogurt on the side, or just a good old glass of milk.
Dairy products, right? It's the casein protein, correct? In those products that actually, and I know there's debate. I think there's debate here. On one hand, you have some experts saying that the milk protein can actually bind to the same receptors that capsaicin does, and so those proteins act like receptor antagonists, blocking out the capsaicin. Others say that, well, maybe that's happening, but others believe that the milk protein is helping to break down the capsaicin, so there's less of it floating around in your mouth, and you're going to feel less of the burn. I don't know where you fall in that. Either one sounds fine to me.
Yes, actually, I fall in the category where it's really helping to break that bond of that capsaicin to those nerve receptors.
Yeah.
So yes, but there may be other mechanisms of action at play. But the other piece, Dr. Mike, outside of the casein, is actually the fat. It's fat in general, or oil, because
oil too, right? Yeah.
Yes, these spices are oil based, and so anything that's watery, like if you drink a glass of water after eating something spicy, all you're doing is kind of moving that capsaicin to other areas in your mouth, and you'll be burning all over.
You don't want to do water for sure. Milk, when you watch some of these pepper eating contests, they all have milk ready to go.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But for my kids, I will give them sour cream.
Okay. Yeah.
If we're having, it's Taco Tuesday.
That's why it was added. The sour cream was added to cut some of the spice in the tacos, right?
Yes, and it works.
That's great. So that's our take on hot and all those great peppers. Don't forget, tomorrow is National Hot and Spicy Food Day. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll have to figure out what I want to cook, or maybe I'll go out and get something really spicy, right, to celebrate.
You should,
Yeah.
Dr. Mike, and take a picture and send it to our social team.
Okay, I could do that. I'll eat something really spicy tomorrow. I'll take a picture. So, well, and I'll do it when I'm like crying. But anyways, this is great. But it's beyond just having fun with the peppers. They are good for you. They have health benefits, from the heart to the pain to the skin to better metabolism, fat loss. So there's reasons to cook with your spices, but also consider supplementation as well. Dr. Crystal, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
I'm going to thank everybody for watching. It's been great. Don't forget, we go live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. So stay tuned for next Wednesday. We got another show coming up. Take care. Bye-bye.